This episode of To The Point is sponsored by Tarsus. Tarsus Pharmaceuticals applies proven science and new technology to revolutionize treatment for patients, starting with eye care. Tarsus is advancing its pipeline to address several diseases with high unmet need across a range of therapeutic categories, including eye care, dermatology, and infectious disease prevention. Tarsus is proud to announce that Xdemvy Lotilaner Ophthalmic Solution 0.25% is now available to prescribe. Support for this podcast is provided by TearCare, a product of Sight Sciences. TearCare is a device that applies heat to the eyelids, where the current medical community recommends the application of a warm compress to the eyelids. Applications include meibomian gland dysfunction, MGD, dry eye, or blepharitis.
Ocular surface disease. It's complex, chronic, and progressive, but rife with opportunity for the enterprising optometrist.
The mission of this podcast is to make this condition more understandable and accessible to those interested in specializing in it. So let's get to the point.
Welcome to another episode of the To The Point podcast. My name is Jackie Garlick, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lee Odell. And today we are very excited to have a very famous guest with us, an internet famous guest. Please welcome Dr. Carly Rose. She is famous on TikTok. She is famous as a pioneer in the dry eye space. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Carly. So Carly was born and raised in the greater Cincinnati area. She received her Bachelor's of Science in Biology from North Kentucky University. And following graduation, she moved to Chicago for optometry school. After optometry school, Dr. Rose chose to complete a year-long residency at the Cincinnati VA Medical Center. Following residency, she furthered her training by becoming a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry. She's a current member of the AOA, the Ohio Optometric Association, and Dr. Rose purchased her private practice 3 years ago in a quaint town called Marymount, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. Welcome, Carly. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That intro was a little, it's hard to receive. That was a little, I don't deserve that intro. So thank you.
I feel like you do deserve that. And, a kudos to you for working so hard. It's just when you hear it all together, you kind of think, boy, I need a vacation.
Well, that's true. That I will take that. That is very true. But it's been so fun. And it's like the further down this rabbit hole, this path I get more excited about it. So it honestly, at this point, it felt more like work right when I graduated than it does now. So that's really cool too.
Oh, that is really cool. Well, so you are legit famous though. Can you just accept this sort of recognition of being internet famous? You have a huge TikTok following, which can you just talk for a second about how you even started doing that and why you were let's do TikTok.
Yeah, I actually can very clearly tell you why. When I bought the business, my office 3 years ago, I didn't obviously know anything about business ownership. So I started consuming all of this information about how to run a business and entrepreneurship. And I found Gary Vee on Instagram. So I started listening to him I should probably listen to this guy. He knows his stuff. And so I downloaded the app and I had no idea what I was doing. It took a few months to even figure out what its purpose was. And it took me a good month or two to post my first video. I was so reluctant. I didn't want to do it. It was all begrudgingly for the sake of trying to grow my private practice. And it has just morphed into this whole other beast that I never anticipated. So it's almost like a second business now. It's wild.
Yes.
It's really amazing. And why? Tell me who the Gary person is again.
Oh, he's great. I listen to his podcast too. That's so
okay.
He's amazing. He's an entrepreneur and he's been in this almost influencer place for over a decade now. He was running his dad's wine convenience store basically. So he got really good at business ownership and business management and marketing himself. And he kind of sees, he's like the Nostradamus of social media. He sees the trends. He watches what people watch. He observes human nature. And so he saw Facebook back in like 2008. He's like, businesses need to be on Facebook, and businesses were like, what are you talking about? And then he did the same thing for Instagram, and now he just keeps proving himself over and over. So a couple of years ago, everything he was talking about was TikTok. Like, TikTok's the next big thing. Market yourself as a business ownership or as an expert in this field. And here I am thinking I was going to try to find, like a 5,000. I was so excited when I hit 1,000 followers. Like, never thought that was going to happen. So it was all literally out of me understanding the importance of social media in this 2020 business ownership world.
Well, what I appreciate about what you do is that you don't always make your staff do like crazy dances. Like, you're actually just educating to, different music or something. So I think that's pretty cool.
I don't fully know. And I think it's a combination. I heard some statistic that, and I don't know if this is even accurate, but I've stuck with it in my head, that people need to see you or hear your name at least 7 times before they take their chance on you. So Instagram may be one of the 7. Right? TikTok may be one of the 7. I have had quite a few people find me on TikTok, make the drive, and come and see me, but I'm not necessarily hanging my hat on that. Now I realize that my intent is not necessarily to grow my practice, but to help market optometry as a whole and elevate the profession. And for years, I would think optometry just doesn't have marketing dollars or lobbying dollars or influence power because we're so young and we're so new. Oh my gosh, we don't need people to buy a voice that we want our profession to speak about. And so then I started doing the PTO meetings and the local chamber of commerce meetings. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And I took that same philosophy, I guess, to social media. What do we as optometrists want patients and anyone with eyeballs to know about themselves? And that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Well, like, congratulations. You do like a phenomenal job with that.
Thank you.
We didn't ask you on this podcast to like talk about TikTok, but I can't not talk about it with you. What we really want to talk about is, like
aesthetics.
What'd you say?
Aesthetics.
Oh yeah, aesthetics. Yes. So I know, have a booming dry eye practice. I mean, you talk about dry eye all the time on various platforms, but I know that you had recently gotten radio frequency in your office. And so I do want to talk to you about that, and then how that's working as far as implementing that into your patient base.
Well, what IPL did that I did not expect is open my eyes to the aesthetics world and how cool and fun that is. So then Cynosure, the company of the radio frequency, came to me and they're like, well, here's this awesome technology. And I was like, no, I already have IPL and LipiFlow. Why do I need anything else? And then I realized it was basically like LipiFlow with the aesthetic benefit, kind of like IPL was getting rid of inflammation with the aesthetic benefit. So it piqued my interest and I ended up pulling the trigger. And so now what we do is give the patient we put together this package if they need, say they need a meibomian gland evacuation plus IPL. We give them the choice of what they want, LipiFlow or radio frequency. And we almost universally, patients have been choosing the radio frequency. And so the results have been really fun to watch. Very, very cool stuff.
So that's almost an either or. I guess I didn't realize that's how you're positioning that in the practice. So can you talk a little bit about exactly what radio frequency is doing to the meibomian?
So we actually kind of don't know. So the radio frequency itself gets warm. And so, you have this thermal component, and then there's a pressure associated. You have to maintain a certain level of pressure on the skin. So you can use that heat and pressure similar to like LipiFlow. So if that's a piece to your puzzle, it's going to help with that. These extra little added benefits. But the research I'm watching right now, and this is all really active, so nothing's set in stone yet, but they think there's some kind of neural stimulation to the oil glands to almost communicate with them and turn them back on. And that's kind of what we're finding with IPL too, is this photobiomodulation we're part of. It's a moving target right now.
Yeah, I feel like there's not I don't know, and maybe you know this, is like how many people are doing this in their office. I feel like it's not that many at this moment. but a friend of mine got radio frequency. I know you have it. When you're doing it and like offering it as an either this or versus LipiFlow, is that the same? I mean, or when you're doing radio frequency, you're heating this up, and then by just sort of the pressure that you're applying, is that causing enough, you think, meibum expression, or what's your opinion?
That's what they're studying. They're showing that it's equivalent, or I think there's one study that's about to come out comparing it to LipiFlow, but it's really, these studies are not great, right? The patient population isn't huge, and you can't really hang your hat on one study anyway. So I think it's more than that. I think it's going to be this communication piece, this stimulation piece, that's the kicker. I don't think it's apples to apples all the way, but this is the closest thing we have to apples to apples. That wasn't an answer.
No.
And I think it's because the science is so new, but yeah, I don't think they're going to, I think it'll show that they're not doing the exact same thing, but they get similar results.
And this is probably the same as you're coupling that with IPL. That's also kind of targeting a different sort of mechanism, I suppose. It will be interesting to see what comes out of this. Do you feel like patients are selecting this radio frequency because they're pulled to say like, oh, I mean, if we're going to get the same result, but I could also get a little skin tightening out of this, let's do it?
Definitely. I think that's the majority. Now, we do have a couple of patients that have had LipiFlow in the past and they had good success, so they just want to stick with it. Or, LipiFlow does carry a substantial name brand recognition within the dry eye community. And so patients know the name and they're asking for it by name. However, the dry eye community is so educated in this stuff to where now we have patients calling and requesting radio frequency for dry eye. So it's getting its word out there too. I think it'll just be a matter of time that it's commonplace.
Yeah. So I kind of want to back up a little bit, because you bought the practice to treat dry eye and make this a dry eye practice. What was the practice when you were like an associate working there? Was it just sort of not a specialized dry eye clinic? And then how did you make that switch into like flipping it into a dry eye office?
We did primary care with a pretty heavy disease patient or medical lean, right? We felt very comfortable handling glaucoma, Actogen, dry eye. We were already recognizing and screening for dry eye, but in a dry eye world, it's very tricky to treat or manage without some of these tools. So it would be, what are you going to do? You can find them all day long, but you can't treat them very successfully without the equipment. And so we were starting the conversations, we were looking for the people. And that's why basically right away, I bought the office and I bought a LipiFlow, because I knew that I had this database of patients. We all have our dry eye patients sitting right there in the chair and they need the treatment. We started doing speed scores on everyone over 18, as well as finding them, talking about it. And it was almost organic growth because you already have the patients in the chair. You don't have to look for them. And then it's just spiraled out since then, right? So I start seeing all these dry eye patients. We're having the conversation and I think, well, you have a lot of inflammation, you have a lot of telangiectasia. We really need an IPL. So I was starting to recommend IPL before I even had it. And that's it. I almost bring these pieces on ethically. My patients need this, so let's bring it on so we can offer it to them.
So you are now like opening a second location. Tell me about your plan with this second location. How is this going to work? I know you really want to build out an aesthetics practice.
Yeah. And again, the aesthetics were a happy accident. I did not go looking for them. And then I found them and I really loved it. So it has kind of taken off. And I, this whole time, wanted an external dry eye place anyway. I just thought it was going to be a lot smaller and a lot different. So I've wanted almost a standalone dry eye clinic to make it really easy for other doctors to refer to me. If I don't do comprehensive care, if I don't have an optical, I feel like it's a no-brainer to refer to a fellow OD that's specializing in this. And our current office is only 750 square feet. So it's very, very, very small. And my hope was that one of the guys next door would retire and I could expand, but that just isn't happening. So then I started looking for extra space to be able to grow the practice, because after year 8 at 750 square feet with all of this equipment, it's just too much. And So then I was looking at a place across the street to kind of expand into separate locations. And I ended up finding one about a half a mile down the street. We are pulling all of our dry eye equipment out almost out of necessity to grow our little private practice as well, and do other cool things like myopia control within that space. And then this dry eye world is just almost growing out of my control. It's morphing into what it wants to be. And so this other space offers us the opportunity to grow into that. It's going to be really cool to watch.
This episode of To The Point is sponsored by Tarsus. Tarsus Pharmaceuticals applies proven science and new technology to revolutionize treatment for patients, starting with eye care. Tarsus is advancing its pipeline to address several diseases with high unmet need across a range of therapeutic categories, including eye care, dermatology, and infectious disease prevention. Tarsus is proud to announce that Xdemvy Lotilaner Ophthalmic Solution 0.25% is now available to prescribe.
That is really amazing. Like, I feel like there's a good case study here on how to grow a dry eye practice and sort of use you as an example. But I will say we did very similar things. Like, I bought my practice a year and a half ago, and I did the same thing. I did speed on everyone. I brought in, in my case, Tier Care and a TopCon to do my biography on people too. So I feel like that is like a perfect first start, which is not a huge investment. Well, Tier Care is a lot
It's not
lower.
bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, as long as you can somehow treat this meibomian gland dysfunction, I mean, I'm eyeing an IPL. You're making me want a radio frequency. Like it can spiral.
It's really cool
quickly.
stuff. Yeah. So my hopes, and so what I'm seeing now is this piece of it is the aesthetic world, but it's almost the same thing. It's an ethical obligation to offer healthy lash serums, Leslie's healthy mascara, to talk about maybe let's do Botox on your forehead, not your crow's feet, because it might interact with your blinking, and just offer healthier alternatives to things people want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some healthy lash treatments one day, or things that can help you aesthetically, but also help you medically.
It's funny that you say that about lash treatments, because I feel like the lash artists really come at you on TikTok. So
they do. They're aggressive.
If only they could hear you now, they would be like.
Oh, I know. And it's so funny because one of my friends from high school is a lash artist, and we kind of joke back and forth, and I'm like, you're going to mess them up. You send them to me. And she laughs and she's like, they're going to do it anyway. They might as well pay me. And so I have great working relationships with actual lash artists, but man, they come at me hard on there big time. It is wild. They're leaving me 1-star Google reviews. It's aggressive.
You know who else has this sort of, I think, similar concept is, do you know Janelle Davison? Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
She, I think, does that. I think she has like a lash artist in her own optometry office, which is like her thinking was this exact same. Is like, they're going to get it anyway. Let me at least know that it's like being done, properly. So good idea.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. What is so when did you actually get radio frequency? When did you bring it in?
I believe it was October, November. And then it was one of those whole things where it was in the box on the floor until training a couple weeks later. And then a couple weeks later, our first patient. So I would say we really started working physically with it on patients in November, December.
And what's been your like patient acceptance of this? Like, how many new patients are you getting that are interested in this?
We probably get about 10 new patients a month that are interested in some type of dry eye package. And of those, I would say about 75% choose radio frequency over LipiFlow. So I would say we're somewhere between 5 to 10 new radio frequency, maybe 5 patients a month right now. We have a very small handful of patients that are choosing to do it almost prophylactically, no dry eye. And so I think, and this is with basically no marketing, the only thing we're doing is you have dry eye, here's an option for you. And that's where I really feel like once we start marketing it, it's going to take off because it's already such a super high acceptance.
My friend is having a very similar acceptance rate with patients too.
It's kind of that IPL and radio frequency have truly shocked me. Like I knew they were good. I knew I wanted them. They're very expensive machines. I would not have bought them without doing research. However, they've also still shocked me.
Can you tell me about your like dry eye packages? I'm curious how you like position all that.
Yeah. And this is again, another moving target. Since this is all kind of new and exciting, we don't really know what is industry standard for pricing, but what we're doing right now is what we're kind of considering our total dry eye package. And that includes 4 IPL, the choice of 1 LipiFlow or 2 eyes only radio frequencies. And they can upcharge that and add on full face and neck for those 2 treatments. But we offer 1 LipiFlow, 2 eyes only radio frequency, 4 IPL, a brooder or some type of microwavable heat mask, 2 rounds of We Love Eyes oil and foam, and then a year supply of Fortify Super Omega Max for $199 a month. So the capture
like
rate,
a subscription,
kind of.
yeah,
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
so different. I feel like than what we have been, how we've been positioning it, and I kind of like this. And
if you can get all of that for below a typical Xiidra or Sequa copay, it's like a no-brainer for these patients. And then you get all of these aesthetic benefits. You get like the joint benefits from the fish oil. There are so many added benefits to this. So
you do, what if, do you have to do this for a certain amount of time? Like, do you make patients sign up for a certain number of months?
12
months. It sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
The dry eye subscription. I think this is brilliant. And I feel like I haven't really heard other people doing it this way. So not surprised it be coming from Carly Rose first.
And then you get the nutraceutical component too. And so I feel like a patient is way more likely to actually take the fish oil if they have 12 bottles of it in their cabinet.
What are you doing exactly? Are you buying 12 bottles and then giving it to the patient, 12 bottles of it right then?
No, what we do is we have them at least 4 different times for the IPLs. Mm-hmm. And so we will kind of trickle it out at each visit. And on the last visit, they get the remainder.
Do you have some kind of fun bag that you give them?
Yeah, we have branded bags, and in it, they get all of their little products. And so it's fun to leave with things in hand too.
So, oh my God, I have so many questions about this now. This is a great idea. So then are you, like charging their credit card once a month? Like once a month, you just have these like rolling subscriptions that keep going?
Exactly.
I think you need to put it in a little box like FitFab and whatever. Like people love box.
Oh, and the Eyes Are the Story box is like an experience. So you're exactly right. I have to do that. It's just, where do we do it in this process, right? Because we're opening a business.
That's pretty incredible. How many people like do end up doing this? So can they do a subscription model versus just a one-time set of things, or like you have? And
they can pay in full and they receive a month off. So most people pay in full. And then we are now starting to get into these maintenance phases to where they might not need all 4 IPL and a LipiFlow. They may only need 1 IPL every 6 months. So then we have a 4 IPL package. We have 3 RF packages. We have like bundles all over the place.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's a good point, I guess, for that patient that, let's say, does that first year.
And then they're just in maintenance phase.
They're in maintenance. So then how many IPLs would they do over the course of a maintenance year?
Anywhere. I usually tell patients 1 every 6 to 12 months. If they are like raging hot, red, fiery eyeballs, it's going to be more like every 3 months for a minute until we get everything neutralized. But some patients are like, can I come back and do this once a month? I love it. It was awesome. And then they can buy a package of 4 and bank them and just use them as they need.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to do the full-on Omegas radio frequency package. How many packages do you have? You've got a lot of packages.
We do. It's become interesting. So when we open this second location, we're probably going to use an aesthetics platform because they're used to these membership models and packages. So they have them built into their systems. And so when we look at the new software for the new space, we're considering things like that to make it a lot more user-friendly on our end as well.
Wow. This probably does take a fair amount of organization on the back end, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I have the best team in the history of the world. So to be fair, my staff's a huge piece in this puzzle. Huge.
Yeah. This is a great idea because I'm like so interested now in this subscription model. That is a great idea. I think the biggest hurdle I feel like with
cool.
patients, like, I mean, I use PRN Omegas in my practice and they have some sort of subscription model also, but sometimes patients aren't really into that. A third party subscription model, like it just seems like, I don't know. And if you could get that all within the office, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Very cool stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to come up with more questions about these subscription models, and then we might have to have you back on just subscriptions.
Deal. I'm in.
All right. I totally appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. You are, it's great to finally meet you. I mean, this is over Zoom, but like in person, as opposed to me watching TikTok.
I can't wait.
So thank you so much for joining us today. You've been super great to talk to and really interesting on these, how you're handling your dry eye clinic, and good luck to you opening your new office. It's wonderful.
Thank you. I know, I really appreciate it. I love talking to anybody I can about this clearly. So thank you for having me.
And now for the To The Point wrap up. Radio frequency is a new option and can be used in conjunction with other thermal treatments for meibomian gland dysfunction. When thinking about our dry eye business and patients, we want to actually be rethinking dry eye. Treatments that we use can add up quick, but if you rethink your business model and add a service like a subscription, it might make it more obtainable for some patients. We have lots to learn from Dr. Rose in staying ahead on social media and how impactful that can be as we work to educate and grow our practices.